What do you think Earth will look like 10,000 years from now?
That's an interesting question. I think it will be a lot more automated, or it'll be a smoldering pile. I mean, there is a possibility we could end ourselves. There's always that possibility that we've really opened Pandora's box in some regards. I did listen to one of your podcast guests with the what would happen in the case of nuclear war.
Yeah.
That was chilling. Her opinion was certainly we would burn everything to a crisp within minutes, apparently. So we have that capacity. That's scary. That's a possible future for us. But I'm an optimist. I'd like to think that guys like you are going to make friendly robots who make my job better.
But 1,000, 10,000 years is a long time. And technology is improving and becoming more advanced rapidly, and the rate of that improvement is increasing ever more. So
that's the part that frightens me, actually. I don't know. Does that frighten you?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
I heard somebody say, I forget who it was, but systems of any kind, human systems, biological systems, can be put on a graph that's change over time. And any graph that the change is way faster than the time, and the line starts going straight up, that is a system in crisis. In almost any biological system that has that fast a change over that little a time, any other thing, you'd describe it as a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
When you apply that chart to technology's change, it's a crisis.
From that perspective, absolutely. But I also have a faith in human ingenuity, that we humans like to create a really difficult situation and then come up with ways to get out of that difficult situation. And in so doing, innovate and create a lot of awesome stuff, and sometimes cause a lot of suffering. But on the whole, on average, make a better world. But yeah, if it, like with nuclear weapons, the bad stuff might actually lead to the death of everybody.
I guess there's always that chance. But I am an optimist. I think you're an optimist too. I think exactly as you just said. I think that the greatest capacity of humans is our ability to innovate, and we are never more innovative than when we're under distress. I think that a lot of the developments of humans over the last thousands of years have been about, we didn't change the world when we were comfortable. It was when we were in crisis. Necessity is the mother of invention. And I think we'll be all right. I think that this impending climate crisis is real and happening. I actually personally think that I'm gonna answer a question that you didn't even ask me.
Great.
I think we're wasting our time thinking that we can reverse this. We're delusional. I'm all for electric cars and being good stewards of the environment, but we are wasting our time not technologically adapting to what's about to happen. We're spending too much time pretending. The average American thinks if we all just drive electric cars, we'll be okay. That's bullshit. That's not going to happen. We need to start making technologies that desalinize water, that a host of things that we need to use our technological capacity to accept it and adapt, instead of Pollyanna thinking we can make it go away.
Yeah, kind of accept that the world will change and a lot of big problems will arise, and just develop technology that addresses them.
I think you have some guys that have their finger on the pulse there. We need to start thinking about how we're going to survive this, not that we're going to make it go away.
And not just survive, thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're pretty innovative in that regard. But if some catastrophic thing happens, or we just leave this planet, what do you think would be found by aforementioned alien civilizations when they visit? The anthropologists, the grad student anthropologists that visit Earth and study, how much of what we now have and love and think of as human civilization will be lost, do you think?
Well, time moves on and things that are perishable perish. So, you didn't put a time element in there, but I would say that, everything that can perish will, and whoever shows up here will be stuck with only the things that didn't perish. So we'll have, buildings, plaques, but they won't have any books. They won't have any, billboards. They'll have the incomplete record I have.
Mhm.
I one time did a talk in Sioux Falls, and I said, I drove in here and there was a big obelisk in front of the town. And everywhere I go, I see the names Lewis and Clark. And 1,000 years from now, if I was an archaeologist investigating this place, I would think that it was founded by the Egyptians and their kings were named Lewis and Clark. But the truth is, Lewis and Clark stayed one night here. But it's just a big deal. So I would be so wrong about what I thought about your town based on what preserved.
It's so beautiful as a thought experiment. Like, what would archaeologists be really wrong about? And what would they could possibly be right about?
Like Washington, D.C. was clearly made by a combination of the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Romans, because that's what all the architecture is.
Yeah, and would they be able to reconstruct the important empires, the powerful empires, and the warring empires?
For that matter, have me and my colleagues done that at all? I'm almost certain that the Maya would just gut laugh at what I think I know what they were.
I wonder, do you ever think about like what we just as a human civilization are wrong about the most, like mainstream archaeology? Just like a suspicion. What could we get completely wrong? Well, one way to get something wrong is totally like lost civilization, like an obviously gigantic civilization that was there along with the Maya or something like this in the 10,000 years ago.
There's certainly that. There could be things that were either wiped away or still hiding under the oceans that would completely change the way we think about things.
And everybody knew they existed and everybody interacted with them. It was
I think it's our estimation of their motivations that we're probably most wrong on. My teacher Sheely a long time ago said, I would come up with all sorts of theories. I was always thinking about stuff, and she looked at me and she said, if you don't stop thinking like a Western European and start trying to put yourself in the mindset of these people, you will never understand any of it. Which I've always taken to heart. I mean, I really do. When I approach these things, I try to step out of my cultural assumptions, try to think like they would think is the best I could. And it's very different. I mean, this whole, the Maya are cyclical. The whole sacrifice, we're so, obsessed with that. But, that was an austere actual sacrifice on their part. They weren't just, hey, let's all get together and kill that guy that's pissing us off. I mean, they were like, giving the best of them. It was a different mentality. This was not brutal. This was a, bona fide sacrifice on their part, a loss.
Plus the whole mystery of the puppy that eventually starts having sex with his.
I tell you, that one, I'm going to unweave that one of these days.
One of these days. Now, that puppy appeared on pottery.
All over pottery. He's everywhere. I got to write this book. This next year is the year I'm going to write my Fang Deity book, and I will have a whole chapter dedicated to the puppy.
the mystery solved. I mean, it could just be the birth of memes of humor. I don't know. I mean, again, humor. You don't know what the nature of their humor, of what their jokes are.
Oh, that's a neat one too. Then that's so human. I'll tell you a little side story here that when I worked with the Maya people in Palenque, I spent 3 years making this map of the city and hiking through the jungle every day, and they would talk to each other in their own language. It was Celtal was the group I was working with. But I noticed after a while, they were big jokers. They loved to make jokes, and they would laugh at jokes. But then they would also, one of them would say something, and the other ones would go, hoo-hoo. And I eventually asked, what is that? Why do you guys always make that hoo-hoo noise? And they said, that's because he made a really smart pun. It was like he said 3 different things at once. It was a turn of phrase that was smart. And they didn't make laughs at that. It was they had a noise for when somebody said something just super clever.
Yeah.
So there's also that, like, just clever turn of speech.
Yeah. Wit.
And I think about that when I'm a hieroglyphic translator. Like, here's a beautiful thing that's going to be like a poem or a political statement, and I'm just ploddingly looking in a dictionary of what that word means. There's probably double, triple entendres all through this text, and the real meaning is the subtext. And I'm thinking they're talking about corn, and they're talking about the nature of life.
Yeah, it could be satire. It could be, as it was in the Soviet Union, when there's a dictator, maybe there's an overpowering king, you're not allowed to actually speak. You have to hide the thing you're actually trying to say in the subtext. So, and all of that.
There was a funny Maya ceramic that had the ceramics are neat because they don't the monuments can be kind of broken records. I'm the king. I was born this time. I beat these people up. I married this woman. I died. Yeah. But the ceramics will tell us like things out of mythology stories. And there was this one with a rabbit looking at the merchant god, and nobody could translate the text. And finally, this Eastern European, actually a Ukrainian guy, translated it. And the rabbit's saying to the merchant god, "Bend over and smell my ass." And like, oh man, we were expecting this wonderful piece of mythology, but no, it translates "bend over and smell my ass." That's great. That's human.
As we mentioned previously, human nature does not change.